I'm Elena Carter, and the night my grandmother died, I thought I was losing the only person who ever truly saw me. I had no idea. By the next evening, I would lose my entire family, too. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, glanced down at the final page, and said something that didn't feel real. To my granddaughter, Elena Carter, I leave everything. Everything. Not a portion, not a share. Everything. An empire worth $12.8 billion. The room went silent. Then it exploded. "That's impossible," my father snapped, shooting to his feet. My stepmother gasped like she'd been personally betrayed. And my stepbrother? He just stared at me like I had stolen something that already belonged to him. But I hadn't. I hadn't asked for anything. I never did. Before all of this, my life was small. Not in a bad way, just quiet. I worked a normal job, paid my own rent, stayed out of trouble. In my father's house, I was invisible in the most polite way possible. No yelling, no cruelty anyone could point to, just constant dismissal, like I was background noise in a life that didn't need me. My father, Victor Carter, believed in one thing above all else: control. Control over his business, control over his reputation, control over people. Love to him was conditional, and I never quite met the conditions. My stepmother, Diane, specialized in quiet judgment. "Still working there?" she'd ask with a tight smile. "Don't you want something bigger?" Bigger, of course, meant wealthier, because in that house, worth was measured in numbers. And my stepbrother, Lucas, he didn't hide it. Money was his personality. Investments, deals, power moves. He talked like he was already rich, like he was just waiting for someone to hand him the throne. But my grandmother, Evelyn Carter, she was different. To the world, she was ruthless, a billionaire with a reputation sharp enough to intimidate entire boardrooms. But to me, she was warmth. She made tea too strong. She laughed at the wrong moments. She asked questions no one else cared about. Are you happy? Do you feel at peace? Are you proud of who you were becoming? She never once asked how much I earned. Not once. And maybe that's why I was the only one who ever truly showed up for her. When her health began to fail, I visited more often. Not out of duty, out of love. We talked about life, regret, choices. And one day, as I was leaving, she pressed something into my hand, a small key. "Just in case," she said. I laughed. She didn't. I didn't understand it then, but I would, very soon. 3 days after her funeral, we gathered for the will reading. My father sat at the head of the table like it already belonged to him. Diane beside him, composed, calculating. Lucas leaned back, bored, confident. They already believed the outcome was theirs. I sat at the far end, like always. The lawyer began reading, formalities, assets, legal language. Then, my name. To my granddaughter, Elena Carter, I leave the entirety of my estate. Silence. Then chaos. "You manipulated her," my father shouted. "This is fraud," Diane snapped. Lucas leaned forward, eyes burning. "Where's my share?" I could barely breathe. "Do you accept the inheritance?" the lawyer asked calmly. Every eye locked onto me, demanding, pressuring, waiting. And in that moment, I heard my grandmother's voice in my head. "If anyone ever tries to buy your obedience, walk away." I lifted my chin. "Yes," I said, "I accept." That was the moment everything broke. That night, my father called me home. The lights were too bright, the room too still, like a courtroom without a judge. "You're going to fix this," he said. "Sign everything over to me." He placed a folder in front of me, prepared, waiting. "I'll give you 10%, more than you'll ever need. 10% of my own inheritance." "And what do you keep?" I asked quietly. "Control," he replied without hesitation. There it was, the truth. I looked at the papers, then back at him. I'm not signing." The silence that followed was colder than anything I'd ever felt. "Then you're not part of this family anymore." 30 minutes later, I was standing outside with a bag in my hand, homeless, disowned, alone. Or so I thought, because in my pocket was that key, and by morning, I was standing in front of my grandmother's estate. The gates opened slowly, like the past was welcoming me back. Inside, the house was quiet, but not empty. "Miss Carter." I turned. A man stepped forward, composed, professional, familiar. "Adrian Wells," he said, "your grandmother's estate manager." Relief hit me all at once. I thought I was alone. He shook his head. "She made sure you never would be." That same morning, everything changed again. The lawyer returned, but this time he wasn't alone. A financial director, a legal advisor, an entire system my grandmother had built before she died. "You can't transfer the inheritance," they explained. "You can't transfer the inheritance." "Even if I wanted to?" I asked. "You can't." That's when I understood. She didn't just leave me money, she left me protection. And then they showed me the video. My grandmother appeared on screen, calm, certain, prepared. "Elena," she said softly, "if you're watching this, they've already tried to take it." My breath caught. She spoke about my father, his control, his manipulation, his entitlement. "You were never chosen by accident. You were chosen because you never tried to take anything." The screen went black, and something inside me shifted. This wasn't luck. This was trust. The next day, they came. 3 cars, same confidence, same entitlement. But this time, I wasn't alone, and this time, I wasn't afraid. Because the moment my father stepped inside, he realized something. This wasn't his house anymore. This wasn't his power, and I was no longer someone he could control. He left that day with nothing, not even the illusion of authority. And me? I didn't win. I became someone new, because what my grandmother really left me wasn't billions. It was a choice: to stand firm, to walk away, to build something better. And this time, I chose myself.